Hi, afternoon, Jules here from Jules Designs at JT Creations. So welcome to my channel. And what we're doing today is I'm kind of going between making pockets and making envelopes. So these are the policy style envelopes, and they are made out of envelopes. I've covered them in book pages, and if I'm going to use this as, you know, just an envelope just to pop into a journal, then I'll put a bit of book page on there. If not, you know, if I'm going to use this as a pocket on a page, I'll leave it, because that will be glued down, or it will be glued that way, and there'll be a pocket whichever way. So it's got the little circles, the split pins. I've used masking tape to cover the little split pins, and the same in there, and then you just use twine to fasten it. And I've just decorated it with labels and bits of book pages and things, and some ink and stamps. This one, I decided to put a window in it. It didn't have, it's made out of an envelope the same. It didn't have a window in it. However, from if you've watched me do anything in the past, I have a couple of templates of windows and things. That one was just, I drew around it there, and then drew, you know, I've just made it smaller. So, and again, it's got the circles. Now this one, I'd folded, you know, I'd put the envelope together before I'd actually put the circle on. So what I did was I used a little piece of card, and I'll do this with one of these. I attached the circle to it and then stuck the card on the bottom of the envelope. And because I had a window in, the circle's at the bottom. So it's entirely up to you what you do. And because it had a window in it, when I made my tag or your journal card or whatever, I just made sure that the little pot of flowers was there. And I just decorated it with some of my watercolour hearts that I did just before Valentine's Day. So I've got two envelopes here. This one's totally sealed up, which is what I do anyway with these. And we'll seal this and then stick it down. Okay, so that's our two envelopes. That's the sizes I'm doing. What I do now is I cut the very, very edges off. And it is just the very, very edges in this one. And what I do is I work out where I want my fold to be. So I want it about there. So that's fine. And then what I do is I'm just going to put a pencil line across here. And I'm just going to cut that one. There's many ways you can do this. I've seen them done different ways. And then what I want to do with this is I want to fold, because this is the front of the pocket. Just fold that in. And if you make sure that the edges, you know, are level with the edges underneath, you've got a straight fold. If not, you've got a wonky fold. So that's the front of my pocket there. Now what I need to do is I need to pull this down like that. I don't want to take it right down to that fold, so I want about 1/2 inch. So again, I'm just folding it down and creasing it. And then I want to fold a little bit of this in. Now I'm going to see if I can do it. Yeah, I can. But I'm just and that's it. So we'll stick that down, and because it's a bit larger, I'll use a glue stick with this one. Yep. Yep. Get great big globs of glue stick. And then we'll stick that down like that. And then we'll fold that down and just burnish the edge like that. So now what we want to do, I'm not going to put a window in this one. When I do this one, I'm going to put a window in. So we're just leaving that one like that. So we're going to cover it in book page, and I've got this German book page that I'm going to cover it with because I quite like this. And again, I'm just going to use glue stick. That's the top end, so we're going to use that. I'm just pushing it up so you can't see any of the envelope, and just spread the glue, and then we'll just put it there. So there we have that. We've got that one. Now to decide, do I want, do I want that on there, or do I want something different? I think I'm going to go for that. And I'm going to use glitter glue on this one. And again, just put the book page to the end of the envelope, and then fold it over. And if you're doing this, be careful not to snip into your envelope, because it'll trim your flap off. And then what I'll do here is, got a hair. So it's the same shade as the German book page, but it's blank. So it looks quite effective. And right. And this is a bit of Greek book page. And I'm going to rip that off, and I'll ink around the edge. Need to put some ink on the dabber first. want it down there. Yep. And again, I think I'll use that glitter glue for this. And I'm just, you know, doing a patchwork of book page on it. So it's like a Franken covered envelope. And we'll put that there. And what I am going to do is I am going to turn it over. Because I'm going to stick book page on the sides here to stick it round anyway. Yep. So I'm just gonna, this is an old Scottish law book. It's not quite white, but it's a nice contrast. It's slightly creamed over the years. And I'm going to do it this way. And again, I'm using our glitter glue. And because this isn't stark white, I'm not going to ink around the edges. If it was stark white like that one, I would have inked around the edges. And I'm just putting that, just putting it level with that top. And folding it over. And I can always put script stamp on there. And then just trim this little bit off. And again, now I'm just wondering if I should put, no. Alright, so I am going to go right over. So it'll cover a bit of this, which is fine. And again, I'm just going to pop that on there, and I'm going to make sure it's level with that. The only reason I'm doing that is because if I made it level with that, I wouldn't be able to open the envelope. And again, and I'm just going to pull that open a bit and put it back down because I went wonky a bit. There we are, that's it, straight. And you'll notice that I didn't put the circle on that. That's fine, because we'll do the circle in a bit. No, that one won't go. Should we do, yeah, should we do a bit of that? Yep. So again, I'm just covering this with art glitter glue, and I'm putting it as far down as I can because I'm going to cover I think I'm finally at the end of this glue bottle, so that's not bad. So it's lasted me since the the 10th of January, so I think I can maybe retire that for a wee while. And then I'm just going to pop that there. Again, use my Storyboard card. It's a Cheesecake Factory card that I picked up when I was at the Cheesecake Factory in the States last September. Okay. Now I'm just there we are. And then what we'll do is oh, that's because it's still wet with glue. And this one I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to, you know, fix it into a journal or use it as a, you know, freestanding envelope and just pop it in a pocket. So I'm just inking around the edges because obviously it's got white edges there. And I'm inking the top. And fold that back. Whoops. And then we'll ink down these edges. I am going to do a bit of stamping on this one as well. And just muddying the edges up a bit. Okay. And I'm just using this script stamp. It's a Spellbinders, and it's called Dear Ruby. So it's like a letter, but it's lots of letters. And I'm just going to use antique linen. Because obviously I'm not really wanting it to go on there. And we'll do a bit over there. Do I want it a bit deeper than that? Yeah, I think I will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with gathered twig, and I'm just doing these ones here. That's better. But it looks quite nice that it's got antique linen and gathered twig on. Yeah, so that looks cool. And then what I want is, I want some circles. Now I've got some big ones and some small ones here. I cut them out a wee while ago, so we've got that one there. And we've got that one there. So I think that's enough. So this one needs stuck down, and I'm going to see if I can squeeze out any more of this. Perfect. This one I need to put on a piece of card because it's quite thick book paper, but not thick enough. It needs to go on card. And I'm just inking round it. Okay. And what we want now is, I want that in about probably there. So I use a pokey tool. This is looks like one of those pens with all the different coloured inks. It's actually a pin and then ball tools, and they're all different sizes. So it's mainly the pin I use, and I just use one of these cut and dry foam bits that I use for inking with. Find the middle and poke it in. And I'm using a split pin. And it's got little short legs, and my nails are a little bit long. So there we are. And then we'll put that in there. And then you just open the legs. Don't make it too tight, because obviously you want twine to go around there, so you know, leave it a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of book page, and I'm going to use this pink spotty. And I'm just ripping it off, and then what I do is I press it down that way, and that sticks better. So we've got that, and now what I need to do is I need a piece of card. So I've got a piece of card here, and do I want it at the bottom or do I want it at the top? All right, so I'm going to do it at the top, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this card down so that it's, I'm going to double the card over, just so it's a little bit stronger. And it's just a scrap bit of card, it's nothing special. But what I'll do is I'll stamp on it. It's not even straight edges. And that's it. And we'll do a little bit of script stamp in there with the ink that was left on. If you wanted, you could cover it with book page. And then what I'm doing now is I'm just finding the middle. I'm going to put it on this foam, find the middle, if it's not exactly in the middle, don't worry about it, unless you want perfection. But we're not really looking for perfection in junk journaling, so and then what I'm doing now is I'm just getting the 0.1 ball tool and pushing that in. And push it in there as well. It's just that it's obviously the pin isn't thick enough for the legs of the split pin. So again, once you've done that, just open your split pin. Again, not too tight, you know, give it some room. And then use your glue. And place this, if I put my, and we'll put it there. Right, so before I put any twine on that, I'm going to let that dry so that it's got a good, you know, so it's well and truly stuck down. So we'll put that to one side. And again, I want that probably about there. So I'm just, where I've creased it there, I'm just going to cut it. Okay, so we'll leave that to one side. Again, we're going to pull this down just probably about 1/2 centimetre or 1/4 inch, whatever measurements you use. It doesn't have to be those measurements. It's just what, you know, whatever feels right for you. And I'm just burnishing that side down. Okay. And there we have our top. And again, I'm not taking it down too far. And I'm just and you can see there's parts of the envelope that hasn't stuck down, so I'm just sticking these little flaps down. It just makes it easier. Okay, so I'm going to use a bit of this. I'm just going to take the word expenses off. And I think I'll use some Greek book page. So I'm going to take the margin off and the title, and these are going to spill over, so we'll fold, you know, we'll bend that round so that it seals the sides of the envelope, it closes the sides of the envelope. If you want, you can actually you can stitch these on, you know. And again, pull that and close it. And although I trimmed it off, I've still got like a little raggy edge, which is fine. And it doesn't want to cut because it's wet with glue. So there we have that. And again, I forgot to put my circle in, so I'm just going to have to put it on a card again, which is fine by me. Greek book page here, and I think I'll use this one. So I'm just taking the margin off again. I think what I'll do is I'll fold some of that in, so in fact what I'll do is I'll stick that down there and I'll fold that one over. So what I'm going to do here is I'm using glue stick, some glitter glue at the edge. Now if you do this, be careful, because if it squeezes out, it'll stick this down and you don't want that stuck down. And putting that in there like that. And I'm folding that over like that. Okay. And it just gives it a nice and then that should fold. If you wanted to, you could leave it to dry, you know, leave the flap to dry until you fold it up. And then we have our envelope. Now I'm just, and when you use glue sticks, sometimes even normal glue, you know, you get little bits that haven't glued down, so just check them. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ink around the edges. And we've got some, so we've got that one there. That one I would use, but it missed a bit, so we'll use this, and we'll use the vintage photo, and again we'll just use this bit. Okay. That's enough. Doesn't have to be legible, just as long as it's about the same colour as the book pages, or it matches the book page. And again, my pin, and on my little bit of cut and dry foam, what's roughly the middle, and then I'm putting the other one in, and makes it a lot easier if you make the hole big enough for the split pin. It really does. And then we'll put that there. I will cover it up in a minute, but I'm looking for some card. I've got bits of card here. I've got some I wonder if I've got some big enough to do a little bit of stamping on. Because I've thrown a lot of my card out, so aha. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim it 1 1/4 inch by 1 3/4 inches. I'm going to use the ground espresso. Again, we'll just put it down there. And have I got a busy? Yeah, we've got a little busy bit here. Yeah, that one says Ruby. It's got her address. So there we are. And again, I'm just where's my little, so I'll place that in the middle. Pin, that's not my pin. Where you think the middle is. Okay, and I don't know whether to use a bigger one for that. No, I'll use the same size. And again, I'm just turning the legs over. You can see there's a space because that'll push up, and then it gives you, you can see that that's pushed up, so it gives you enough room for the twine to go under. Just make sure that they're stuck down properly. And I've had my glue pot up the right way, so I need to use this one. Ah, that's it. Make sure you put quite a bit of glitter glue near the legs, if you can turn them round. And I think I'll put this one down here. You can see that one's not as protruding out as that one. So there we are. And this one, I've got some garden twine, so we'll just tighten a knot, tighten a knot again. I'm not going to stick it, well, I might be able to. So that's that one. And where's the one I left to dry? Under the pile system. There it is. And again, I mean, you can use ribbon for these as well if you want. You know, if you've got the like the thin ribbon, the ribbon that you get on, you know, when you buy a blouse or a top or something, it's got like little ribbon at the sleeves. It's for using with your hangers. I always cut them off because they're a nuisance. And I use them. They're nice and small enough to use. And then that one goes around there. There. And okay, so now I've made a mess of my desk. We'll have a look at what we've made. So these are the two that we made today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some fleur-de-lis stamps on because I quite like this fleur-de-lis. I don't know where it's from because I bought it here in Cyprus in the second-hand shop. So, you know, I don't know. I know I've seen these before. So I think I'll just leave that with that. And I'm just going to do the end of the fleur-de-lis on here. Yep. And there we are. So that's that. And that's inked up enough. So we've got them. And then these are the two that I made with little decorations and bits and pieces. So I hope you get something from that. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.